Welcome to Recaply X, your movie recap in a flash. We bring the drama, the action, and the twists. In minutes, the story begins in an ancient time when there were wars between humans and other creatures called orcs. These wars devastated the land and claimed countless lives from both sides. The conflicts lasted for a long time, but eventually ended in peace. However, both sides now face a new, mysterious danger known as the Fel, or the green magic. This catastrophic magic has affected both humans and orcs, causing strange and significant changes in them, turning them into aggressive beings. The narrator of the story is Durotan, a leader of one of the orc tribes, who feels guilty for bringing his tribe into this danger, although he didn't foresee the consequences. At this time, his pregnant wife Draka is in her final months of pregnancy. He tells her to hide her belly as they prepare to leave for the new war. The next morning, all the orc tribes gather to prepare for battle. Durotan speaks with his friend Orgrim, who tells him that all the tribes are ready and equipped with large forces. Orgrim remarks that it seems like a war of annihilation. Then, we see Gul'dan, the terrifying leader and the source of the green magic, addressing the tribes. He explains that the fuel for his magic comes from the souls of living humans, and they must invade new lands to capture more souls. He demonstrates his power by drawing green light from the souls of imprisoned humans, creating a massive portal between the mountains using this energy. He orders everyone to pass through it. The orcs rush through the portal, and when it's Durotan and his pregnant wife's turn, he goes first, followed by her. However, she experiences immense pain as she crosses. On the other side, her pregnancy becomes visible to all. Durotan rushes to her, but Gul'dan's assistant, Blackhand, stops him and scolds him for bringing his pregnant wife. Meanwhile, Draka goes into labor, and Gul'dan himself assists her. She gives birth to a baby boy, but tragically, the child is stillborn due to the magic they passed through. Gul'dan takes the baby and transfers the soul of a nearby deer into him, reviving the child. Everyone rejoices as Gul'dan declares the newborn a new warrior for their army. The story then shifts to a distant city where a powerful warrior named Lothar is inspecting a new weapon resembling a gun, but firing explosives instead of bullets. He receives a message from the city's king, informing him that their lands are under attack, with both civilians and soldiers being killed. Lothar realizes he must return to the capital to take his place in the army. Upon arrival, he learns that an entire battalion was killed in a strange and gruesome manner. The survivors mention a man who was examining the corpses, and they detained him for questioning. Lothar interrogates the man, who turns out to be a mage named Khadgar. Khadgar reveals that the last corpse holds the key to understanding who attacked the soldiers. When they examine the body, green smoke emerges, and Khadgar insists they must summon Medivh, the Guardian, immediately. Lothar explains that only the king can summon the Guardian, so they head to the capital. The king is puzzled by the brutal killings and kidnappings, and Khadgar tells him the secret lies in the green magic. Everyone is confused, but Khadgar explains that he sensed an approaching evil that could destroy everything. He urges the king to summon the Guardian. As they speak, they see flames rising from a nearby city under attack. The king sends Lothar to summon the Guardian, giving him the royal seal as proof. Lothar and Khadgar use one of the king's giant birds to travel quickly. Meanwhile, Gul'dan and his forces finish destroying the newly invaded city, capturing its inhabitants to harvest their souls. Durotan grows increasingly uneasy, feeling that these actions are dishonorable and destructive. Lothar and Khadgar arrive at the Guardian's fortress, where they meet Medivh's assistant, Moroes. While Khadgar marvels at the massive castle and its library, Lothar delivers the king's message to Medivh, who is seen sculpting a giant clay statue. Medivh explains that he plans to animate the statue with magic and use it as an ally in battle. He names the statue Golem. Meanwhile, the one below is working, opening one book after the other, but suddenly he feels something strange, and it's like someone is standing close to him. But when he tries to see who is watching him, the one watching him turns into black smoke and disappears inside the book. He goes there to see which book to hide in, but finds that the mark in his hand has lit up strongly near a certain book, so he takes it and hides it in his robes, but is confronted by Medivh, who uses magic to pin him to the wall. Khadgar explains that he is investigating the green magic and its connection to the recent deaths. Medivh reveals that the magic, known as the Fel, is incredibly powerful and feeds on human souls. While it grants immense strength, it harms anyone who comes near it. Medivh warns that the presence of such magic endangers everyone in the region. Realizing the urgency, Medivh agrees to join Lothar and Khadgar in returning to the king to prepare for war. The story concludes with the growing tension between the orcs and humans, as both sides brace for the battles ahead, and he creates a magical circle that transports the three of them to the royal palace of Lothar. When they arrive at the palace, Lothar welcomes Medivh and takes them to the war meeting room. They sit down to discuss, and Medivh informs them that they have gathered information about the enemy, who are massive, giant creatures. However, they still don't know their full strength or their connection to the green magic. They decide they need to capture one of them to learn more about their exact nature. Medivh responds, saying he will come up with a plan to capture a few of them. Indeed, he sets out with Lothar, Khadgar, and a group of soldiers to the city that had been attacked by the enemy earlier. When they arrive, they find the place eerily quiet, with nothing but human corpses scattered everywhere. They stop at a tree marked with traces of green magic. Suddenly, an axe is thrown at one of the soldiers, killing him instantly. They realize they are under attack and prepare for battle. Out of nowhere, a group of orcs descends upon them, brutally slaughtering the soldiers one by one. During this chaos, Khadgar stands next to Medivh, and when an orc approaches them, Khadgar casts a spell that creates a large barrier to protect them. Inside the barrier, Medivh performs a greater spell to eliminate all the green magic in the area. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, the soldiers continue to fight the orcs. Lothar fights fiercely, and his son, who is with the soldiers, is nearly killed by an orc. At the last moment, Lothar saves his son. Durotan is also present in this battle, observing the events with surprise. Suddenly, Medivh's spell activates, wiping out all the orcs infused with green magic, leaving only Durotan and another orc alive. Durotan flees on horseback, and Medivh, after successfully casting his spell, strikes the ground with his staff and quickly leaves the area to return to his fortress. Lothar takes a few soldiers and follows him, managing to capture one of the orcs by striking him on the head until he is unconscious. Meanwhile, one of the orcs approaches Khadgar, who is standing alone. However, Khadgar casts a spell to bind her to a tree until Lothar arrives. Thus, they capture two of the giants and decide to take them back to the palace for study. On their way back, Lothar tries to communicate with the larger orc, asking who they are and why they are attacking their land. Of course, he doesn't understand the orc's language, but the female orc responds, revealing that she speaks their tongue. Lothar asks her to translate his words. The other orc warns her not to reveal any information, but she disobeys. The orc suddenly tries to kill her, but she is saved at the last moment. Thus, they return to the palace with only one captive. She is brought before the king, who asks her about her name, origin, and tribe. Lothar responds, saying her name is Garona. The king is surprised by her appearance, as she resembles humans to some extent, but also shares features with the giant creatures they fought. She tells them that her people are called the Horde. The king asks her to pinpoint their location on a map, but she explains that they are not on the map because they come from another time. They entered this time through a magical portal created by Gul'dan. She learned their language from the human captives they took to feed on their souls. The king asks if those captives are still alive, and she confirms. Lothar demands that she show them the location of the portal leading to their world, so they can fight and rescue the captives. When she refuses, she is imprisoned. Meanwhile, Durotan and his companion return to Gul'dan. Gul'dan mocks them, calling them weak despite their strength, for losing to humans. Durotan tells him that the one who won the battle used green magic, just like Gul'dan. Gul'dan is surprised claiming no one else uses that magic but him. Back in the dungeon where Garona is imprisoned, something strange happens. The mage suddenly appears before Garona and asks her a strange question. Do you know who told Gul'dan about the portal's location? She replies that she hasn't seen him in person, but has heard his voice, which sounds demonic. She says Gul'dan calls him the Evil One. At that moment, people storm in and abduct the mage in an instant, leaving Garona bewildered. Later, the queen, who is also Lothar's sister, visits Garona. She brings her clothes, a blanket, food, and drink to make her comfortable. The queen tries to win her over, telling her that the orcs are destroying their lands and killing their people. Garona agrees to show them the portal's location. Meanwhile, Durotan and Orgrim reminisce about their past. Durotan expresses his disapproval of Gul'dan's destructive actions and considers allying with humans and mages to eliminate Gul'dan. Garona, Lothar, Khadgar, and a group of soldiers prepare for their journey to the mysterious portal. During the journey, Garona reveals that her name means the Cursed One in their language. She shares her tragic story of being tortured her entire life and how her mother was killed for giving birth to her. The next morning, they reach the portal's location and learn its whereabouts, the number of orcs present, and the captive's location. Garona informs them that Gul'dan is waiting for a larger portal to be completed, so he can bring more orcs into the city. If the portal is opened, it will pose a grave danger to everyone. Lothar decides they must return to the palace to inform the king and prepare for the threat. While Garona is alone with Khadgar, Durotan suddenly appears, binding Khadgar and delivering a message to Garona. He asks her to arrange a meeting with her king at the Black Rock to form an alliance against Gul'dan and restore the Horde's honor. Garona agrees to deliver the message. Meanwhile, Medivh arrives at his fortress, visibly weakened. His assistant realizes it is the effect of the green magic and advises him not to return there. Medivh insists, saying the kingdom needs the mage now more than ever, and he must protect them. At the same time, forces from various cities in the kingdom gather for a meeting with the king to discuss the orc threat. At that moment, Lothar enters with new information about the orcs, stating that now is the time when all forces must unite. And suddenly, a message arrives for Lothar. He learns from it that his son was injured in the last war. He rushes to his son to check on him and finds him fine and unharmed. He asks him to take care of himself because he has no one else in the world. The son agrees. After that, they all gather with Garona, who informs them of Durotan's message. But Lothar is sure it's a trap set by Durotan to bring his people and kill the king. However, Garona tells them that Durotan was the tribe leader and has always been honorable and kind. The king agrees to meet him there to find out exactly what he wants. They ask Garona to come with them and give her a royal weapon. At this time, Khadgar enters Atwa and finds the guard inside the room. He sees all the drawings Khadgar made about green magic. When Khadgar tries to show him his findings, the sorcerer gets angry, burns all his drawings, and tells him to stay away from green magic and only protect the king. Fortunately, Khadgar had hidden another drawing. He quickly goes to Lothar and tells him what happened with the guard or sorcerer, showing him the hidden drawing. He reveals that one of the orcs is inside the city and summoned them, and they must find out who it is. They start suspecting Medivh due to his strange and frightening recent behavior. Afterward, they go to meet Durotan and his tribe. Medivh is on the mountain to protect them. He tells them that the deadly magic used by Gul'dan is destroying everything, including their world. Therefore, they need to eliminate him. He agrees with King Lane to gather his men and attack their camps. The soldiers will distract Gul'dan's guards, while Durotan and his men sneak inside to kill him. King Lane agrees. However, the treaty doesn't last long because Gul'dan's men suddenly appear and attack them. The king, Lothar, and their companions realize it's an ambush and flee. Durotan tries to prove his sincerity by fighting and killing Gul'dan's men. Meanwhile, the soldiers battle the monsters attacking them. Medivh begins creating a magical orb to protect them. Unfortunately, when he uses it on the orc monsters, Lothar's son, Callan, is trapped inside the orb. Lothar tries to enter and save his son but can't. He calls for Medivh, but Medivh is not in his right mind. When Blackhand, Gul'dan's assistant, sees Callan and realizes he's Lothar's son, he grabs him by the neck and stabs him with his claw to kill him in front of his father. Lothar feels he has lost everything in his life. Meanwhile, Khadgar and Garona search for Medivh and find him on the mountain. They take him back to his fortress. The expected surprise is when Khadgar looks into Medivh's eyes and sees them glowing green, realizing he has been affected by green magic. He leaves them to find a solution at the Mages' Council, because he now knows who summoned the orcs. Durotan returns to his tribe to protect them after being accused of betrayal. Blackhand catches up to him and accuses him of treason, demanding he surrender to protect his tribe. Durotan bids farewell to his wife, asking her to name their son Goal, and goes with Blackhand. When Medivh regains consciousness, Garona is beside him. He questions her, and she tells him about Lothar's son. Medivh begins to suspect her, but tells her to stay close to Lothar and creates a portal for her to join him. Meanwhile, Gul'dan tries to turn all the orc tribes against each other to sow hatred. He asks Orgrim, Durotan's friend, to lead the tribe instead of the traitor, Durotan. The plan is set in motion as Orgrim attacks Durotan's tribe to take control, but he gives Durotan's wife a chance to escape with their son. She flees but feels betrayed by Orgrim. At the same time, Khadgar reaches the Mages' Council and informs them about what happened to Medivh. Suddenly, a portal opens, and Khadgar enters, finding the same black smoke he saw earlier in the library. An old woman appears, telling him that green magic has completely taken over Medivh. If no one stops him, he will destroy the world and become a powerful demon. Khadgar says he can't stop him alone. She tells him he must cooperate with his allies to stop him. Strangely, even the old woman's eyes glow green, indicating she too is affected by the magic. Back at Medivh's location, he collapses, and his assistant places him in the energy pool to revive him. However, the pool turns entirely green. Medivh apologizes to his assistant, admitting that green magic took over him, leading him to summon the orcs and harm many people, becoming a curse to everyone. Medivh's eyes turn black, and he takes on a terrifying appearance, draining his assistant's soul to feed on it. The king and his soldiers prepare to attack the orc city, but Lothar disagrees with the plan. Suddenly, Medivh appears, seemingly rejuvenated, provoking Lothar with words to distract him from protecting the king. He mentions Lothar's deceased son, leading to a fight between them. Medivh convinces the king that they can protect the kingdom without Lothar. Garona bids farewell to Lothar before joining the king for the battle. Lothar warns her not to trust Medivh and to protect the king from him. Orgrim, feeling guilty, frees Durotan from his prison. After ensuring his wife is safe, Durotan prepares to confront Gul'dan. Meanwhile, King Lane prepares his soldiers and says goodbye to his wife and son, sensing he might not return. Khadgar returns to Lothar with the information he learned from the old woman. Finding Lothar imprisoned, Khadgar uses magic to turn the guard into a sheep and frees Lothar. He creates a magical circle to open a portal to Medivh's location. Lothar and Khadgar agree they must stop the demon. Medivh immediately. Durotan's wife is still fleeing with her son, but Gul'dan's men catch up to her. She places her son in the water to save him and faces her pursuers. Although she fights them off, she is fatally stabbed. Durotan gathers his men and his friend to confront Gul'dan, and he calls out to him and says, "Come fight me." So Gul'dan agrees, and a battle ensues between them. They are not supposed to use magic, and in fact, Durotan manages to strike him blow after blow, but Gul'dan retaliates fiercely and hits him hard. Meanwhile, Gul'dan and Lothar arrive at Medivh's castle and find that his assistant is dead. Suddenly, Medivh appears, but he looks terrifying. He restrains Lothar and also strikes Khadgar. Medivh begins chanting a spell to open the portal for the orcs. Khadgar tells Lothar they must silence Medivh immediately. At the same time, Gul'dan is forced to end his battle with Durotan, so he drains Durotan's soul and throws him aside. Everyone accuses Gul'dan of cheating in the fight, but no one can stop him. When Durotan dies, they all declare their opposition to Gul'dan. Gul'dan then resurrects the spirits of those who oppose him to intimidate the rest. Blackhand, the massive orc, prepares for the arrival of King Lane's army, which has finally reached the battlefield. Meanwhile, Medivh continues his incantation, and Khadgar tells Lothar they must stop him. Medivh animates his massive statue to keep them away while he completes his spell. The army strikes fiercely against the orc monsters, and Garona fights with all her strength to save the king. At the same time, Gul'dan continues to drain more souls, summoning an even larger army of orcs. In the castle, Khadgar devises a new plan to defeat Medivh. He asks Lothar to distract him while he prepares a powerful spell. Lothar goes to distract Medivh, who tries to kill him. It becomes clear that Medivh is struggling against the evil within him, but cannot overcome it. Suddenly, he transforms into a massive, terrifying creature. Khadgar's spell succeeds, causing the massive statue to fall on Medivh, killing him. However, Khadgar also falls into the lake and is affected by the green magic. At the last moment, he creates a protective circle around the relics to shield them and continues his spell on Medivh's head to remove the green magic. A tremendous explosion of energy erupts in the castle, ending the green magic's influence on both Medivh and the orcs. The orc portal disappears. In his final breath, Medivh casts a spell to open a portal of escape for King Lane and his army. Lothar rushes to save his king in the battle. Meanwhile, Garona runs to free the prisoners so they can escape through the portal. Unfortunately, the mage dies, and the portal closes. The orc army reappears, led by Blackhand, who has become much stronger and more monstrous. He throws soldiers aside like chess pieces. The king realizes this is the end with no chance of survival. He tells Garona to take the honor of killing him at the right moment to stop the war between humans and orcs by taking power after his death. Garona is overwhelmed and unable to do what he asks. However, when she sees him fighting Blackhand and about to die, she draws her sword and kills the king. As she does, the orcs lift her in celebration. At the same moment, Lothar arrives on the royal griffin and starts killing the orc monsters. He is shocked to learn what happened and that he arrived too late. He immediately accuses Garona of betrayal. He takes the king's body to return it to the kingdom, but he is stopped. Lothar does not forget his old grudge against the one who killed his son. He faces him fiercely, striking blow after blow until he defeats him completely. He brings him to the ground, saying, "This is for my son." Gul'dan becomes enraged and orders Lothar's execution, but to his surprise, no one obeys him. Instead, they salute Lothar for winning the battle. Garona confronts Gul'dan, telling him he must adhere to the rules and the treaty with the humans. Lothar returns to the kingdom with the king's body, unable to believe what Garona has done. He tells Khadgar about Garona's betrayal, but Khadgar insists she must have had a reason, as Garona is not a traitor. In the kingdom, the king is buried, and Lothar assumes leadership until the king's son grows up. They continue their struggle against evil, remembering their good king, Lane. Someone finds Draka's son in the water, takes him in, and raises him to become the new leader of the orcs. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, make sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.